and fighting, and then you have all this animosity and anger, and then you have little factions and fractions, and look, we are missing out on deen. How do you know? These guys, the Sahabah radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, look at what Allah did for them. And why is it خير القرون ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام? Why is it that just those first 3 generations? The best generation is mine, then the one that comes after that, and then the one that comes after that. So if you now, historically, if you go and you take a snapshot of generation 1, 2, 3, and what happens after that, the answer becomes obvious and apparent. When we started moving away from the fundamentals of deen and making effort and sacrifice for deen and focus on deen and letting deen actually become what it was meant to be, our lifestyle, the way we live, our identity, who we are and how we are, then everything changed. So the only way to seize that opportunity that they seized is to do what they did. And you and I, alhamdulillah, in that vein, whether it was Jumu'ah earlier, or we're here now in the evening on a Friday evening when everybody's out doing who knows what and getting ready to go do who knows what, we're here. We're here, and it's also a miracle. Okay? So whenever we, like, whether it's myself or like, understand, like, I don't think that this community, mashallah, so many interactions with you individually, collectively, Allahu Akbar, alhamdulillah. I say things and I do things with you that I don't do anywhere else. Nowhere else. Whenever you see me here, it is with this understanding. Even like, because I'll bring up problems. Here's the thing. If things are going right, do we need to talk about them? If things are going okay, like the other things in your life, do you give it special attention? What are you doing? I'm focusing on this. Like, is there something wrong? It's the first thing we ask. Something wrong? Oh no, everything's going fine. Why are you focusing on it if everything's going right? What about the things that are problems? What about the challenges? What about the things that are not going right? Because whether it's at work or whether it's home, whether it's your car or your body, you only really pay attention when something goes wrong. Otherwise, you count it as just kind of like par for the day. Meaning like you expect that it should be right. That is the norm. So what is the default status in our minds? That everything should be correct, proper, and functioning correctly and properly. And as long as it is, we keep our attention like spread out, looking for what? Problems. Looking for something that goes wrong. Looking for something that could potentially cause problems even in the future. So we are actually engaged in protecting that balance, protecting that harmony, protecting the fact that everything is going okay. But when a problem arises, your car starts making a sound. You wake up, you start feeling extreme pain in your stomach or in your head or something, right? You stop everything. You have to, because you start thinking about the implications. I need my car to function. Like I need it for this, I need it for that, I need it for this, I need it for that. I need my body to function. I need it for this, I need it for that, I need it for this. So when you go to the mechanic or you go to the doctor, does everybody in the community and your family say that you're negative? When you tell them like I'm sick or my car broke down, are you negative? Or are you just stating a reality? See, nowadays, if you state a reality, everybody's so hypersensitive that if you state a reality, a truth, and it rubs people the wrong way, then all of a sudden their natural knee-jerk reaction, well, this is negative. No, this is called identifying issues and being solution-oriented. Because if problems exist and you do not discuss them and you do not dissect them and you do not analyze them and you do not come up with viable solutions, then you will be plagued by those issues continually. And here's the thing, you and I both know this. Those issues very rarely stay the same. They grow, they mutate, they morph, they expand, they try to overwhelm us. So the earlier we catch it, the better. Catch the snowball at the beginning, don't wait till it becomes the big one, right, at the bottom of the hill. Catch it at the top. That's what we have to focus on. Don't turn a blind eye to issues that exist in ourselves, in our families, and in our communities. Be an adult. Be a real man in Islam. Be a real woman in Islam. Be a real husband and wife in Islam. Be a real mother and father in Islam. Think about the future. Think about what type of world you want to leave your children to inherit and your grandchildren. Think about the Muslims, whether you are related to them biologically or not. Think about the ones who will come after us. Are we making the world an easier or a better place for them to come, learn their deen, apply their deen, and grow close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or are we trying to convince ourselves that there's nothing wrong with the status quo? Why? So we can keep doing what we've been doing. But if we keep doing what we've been doing, we cannot expect different results. That is madness. That is madness. Right? So we, even with this program, we're solution oriented. We good? We can begin? Let's begin. Okay. Shifting gears. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم علمنا الكتاب والحكمة اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافع ونعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع اللهم إنا نسألك من فضلك يا ذا الفضل العظيم يا عليم يا حكيم يا معلم المسلمين. Sahabah, the choice to convert. When you think about the Sahabah, what do you think about? Do you see them as real human beings? Or do you see them as almost mythical figures in history, Islamic history? Do you see them as human beings the way that you see the people that are sitting next to you? Because if not, then we are doing ourselves an injustice. Because the whole point of their existence and actually being chosen, because that's what the Sahabah were. These are the individuals from amongst the arwah, from amongst all the souls, these individuals that you and I know as the Sahabah were specifically chosen to be the companions of Khairul Khalq, the best of creation, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habibullah. Not by chance. There's no such thing as chance when you're talking about Allah. It's all by design. So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does has by design a purpose and divine intent. Now, the thing about divine intent is the only way that you can know divine intent is if the divine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, informs us. There is no other way. There is no other way. So now how has Allah ta'ala informed us about the status of Sahaba and the purpose of the Sahaba? The fact that we cannot separate them from the Quran is all the proof you will ever need. Ever. You cannot, the same way, can you separate Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the Quran? No. It's impossible. You remove him from the equation, no Quran. It's very simple. You remove him from the equation, you can't even begin to understand Quran. It's very simple. But there is other variables in the equation. And one of those is the Sahabah. When you're studying tafsir, you go over what's called Sha'nu Nuzul, right? What was the situation? What took place? Right? Sababul Nuzul. What was the reason? What was the mean? Like, what happened when this ayah came down? Okay? So now, with that, you have context. Who's in that context? How many different ayat of Quran actually were revealed to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of the actions of the Sahaba and because of interactions between Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his Sahaba? Then as far as what you and I read, as far as a Mus'haf, where did that come from? You see what I'm saying? We cannot separate the Sahaba from Islam, nor from the Quran, nor from Sunnatul Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. So how do we look at them? We're supposed to look at them not as like fictional, mythical figures in history. These were real, living, breathing men and women, young and old, of different levels of ability, different personalities. But they were real people with problems, with issues, with their own little quirks in their personalities, everything. If you don't believe it, there's a beautiful book, you can get it in English, Hayat al-Sahaba. Mawlana Yusuf rahimahullah, amazing job. When I first became a Muslim, within the first 5 years, I was blessed to be able to read the whole thing. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this book was life-changing. By the time I finished those 3 volumes, I felt like I had had an opportunity through the window of this literary work. I had an opportunity to get to know these people. And I fell in love with them. And it, mashallah, it encouraged me, it inspired me to want to learn more about them. And a lot of times, so we're used to hearing, like what, like even like what would Jesus do? Like what would Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? Actually, subhanallah, when a Muslim has a proper understanding of deen, you don't even separate the Sahaba from Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. You kind of see it all together. So now let's look at these Sahaba. Real people like you and I. Now imagine, it shouldn't be that difficult. You're in Mecca. Your family is there. Your lifestyle has already been established. Your social norms are already established. You have your mundane works and things that you do. You have a routine. You're living life. Your days, the days, they become weeks and become months, become years, like mashallah, the normal things. People get married, people are born, people die, like the normal things. Life as normal. Then, all of a sudden, this wondrous man stands up, alayhi salatu wasalam, and says that I am Nabiullah. I am the Prophet of Allah, and I come bearing the truth and to introduce you to the truth. And that truth basically goes against everything in that culture, that society, the societal norms, the familial norms. And it's immediate drama. Immediate. Now, in this environment, now mind you, there's no precedent. When you and I say, for instance, I took my Shahada, there has been like, at the time I took my Shahada and became Muslim, and alhamdulillah, there had already been like what, 1,400 years and some change of people taking their Shahadas. 1,400 plus years of history of Islam throughout the world. Legal precedent, scholarly precedent, oh, Allahu Akbar. It's basically, I'm walking down, like it's not even a trail anymore. At this juncture in history, that trail has been worn down so hard for so long by so many feet over time. It's not a trail, it's a super highway, complete with concrete. It's a super highway, meaning for those individuals that are serious about the truth, who are serious and sincere about wanting the pleasure of Allah. They're serious and they're sincere about wanting success for darain, for dunya wa fil akhirah. It's there for you. And you will find that it is late. Like the only difficulty that you will find will not be in Islam, it'll be in your application of it. You will not find any blemish, you will not find any deficiency nor shortcoming whatsoever in Islam, period, ever, forever, never. I'm saying that emphatically. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. It's perfect, it's complete. So the only issue here with humanity, the only reason why human beings are going through the drama and the problems and the challenges that we are right now is because of the denial of the truth and denial of the ultimate solution. Collectively, humanity as a whole. Then you can break it down on a communal level, country level, national, whatever the case may be, family level, and then on an individual level. So now these Sahabah, in the midst of this, they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision. Now, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, very special individual. Why? Because as soon as he is presented Islam without any hesitation, without consideration, without reservation, he immediately accepts. The only one. To the best of my knowledge, I've never heard anything else other than that. Never read anything other than that. The only one. This today in the Jumu'ah khutbah, I mentioned that there were more people in the masjid at that time than actually made hijrah. About 80 and 100 people. Hijrah. It wasn't thousands. It wasn't even hundreds. And what did they go through to be Muslim? Suhaib, radiyallahu anhu, he suffered persecution. And at the time of hijrah, after suffering all of this persecution, they're going to stop him from leaving. And Suhaib, radiyallahu anhu, he gets his arrows, he gets his sword, he gets his travel things, and he starts heading out of Mecca. They come to get him. So he tells them, I will fight you until there are no more arrows left in my quiver. And then I will fight you until the sword falls from my hand. You're going to have to kill me. I'll make a deal with you. All my dunya, you can have it. He ransomed himself. All my possessions, house, this, that, whatever, it's all yours. You keep it. Just let me go to him. Let me go to Medina. Let me make hijrah. Let me leave this place. So, that's what they did. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw Suhaib, he comments And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, like your actions have drawn their attention to where now Allah and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam are specifically doing what? Praising you and what you did. Can you imagine what that would feel like? Think about Zayd being mentioned in the Quran. Can you imagine what this feels like, that you're getting glad tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam? That's what they had value for. So Suhaib was willing to give up everything. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam told him, like, that was an amazing bargain you made. An amazing bargain that you made. Mus'ab ibn Umair radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Mus'ab, subhanallah, we call him a dandy. He was rich, from a wealthy family, good clothes, mashallah, hair all done. He used to keep his hair long too. So he used to keep his hair long. His ether used to be so fragrant that hours after he had already passed, he's gone. Mus'ab was here, huh? Yeah, it was just a few hours ago. Like, I could tell though, Subhanallah. Now Mus'ab hears the message. And the big thing was being at the home of Arqam, right? Everybody like the home of Arqam, right? When he hears the message of Islam and recognizes the truth and Allah Ta'ala blesses him with hidayah, what does he do? He's willing to sacrifice all of it. His family is against him. The community is against him. Society is against him. And what does he end up having to do? He makes hijrah. He's one of the first ones. He went to Abyssinia. How old was he? He was these days, in Islam, he's a man. These days, according, like, again, societal standards, he's a kid. 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Again, like they weren't very big on birthdays. Again. So now when Mus'ab, he comes back, and this is the second bay'ah. So now the Ansar, right, from Medina, they've come to Mecca, and now, mashallah, they've taken bay'ah. They've made a pledge with Nabi alayhi salatu salam, and now he sends them back to prepare. And he doesn't tell them to build a masjid. Check. He did not tell them to build a masjid. But what he did do is take care of the number one priority. So he told Mus'ab ibn Umair radiyallahu anhu, you go with them and teach them their deen. What was the number one priority? In the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, education. You must know who you are and how you need to be. Your identity must be solidified first as the Abd of Allah. Now, as the Abd of Allah, you build a masjid with the proper understanding, because here's the thing, Allah said masajid is supposed to be built on what? Taqwa. Allah did not mention concrete. Allah did not mention pillars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention, like, mashallah, the adornments of the beautiful masajid that we have today. And we are grateful for them. But the number one priority is education. But this Mus'ab, who did he send? Who is this Mus'ab? That young boy, when he came back, his family locked him up. He had to do some time. They locked him up. Other Sahabah, family members, starved them. Some of them, their mothers, pulling their hair, and mothers were, imagine this. Imagine your mother says, I'm not going to eat until you leave Islam. Your mom Think about what this like. These are human beings like you and I. They love their mothers like you and I. Imagine your mother tells you that I am not going to eat until you leave Islam. How would you respond? When you're the family of Musab is saying we're going to disown you, we will cut you off, and without hesitation, he says, by all means, just let me go. Allah is sufficient for me. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, wa ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. So that same Mus'ab is now walking through the streets of Mecca. His hair is disheveled, dirty, he's dirty. Clothes, he's got one piece of cloth. One piece of cloth. Meaning his situation switched 180 degrees. And in this state, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you are the one that I will send to teach the future. And he was in his early 20s. Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala an. Bilal radiyallahu an is a foreigner who is a slave in a foreign place. Now forget about it. It's not even about family. Where's your family at? Not even in this land. My place of origin is not even in this land. These people are foreign to me. Bilal radiallahu anh, Arabic was not his mother tongue. Bilal radiallahu anh used to make mistakes calling the adhan and the iqamah. It was not his mother tongue. He was a foreigner. Now imagine you are a foreigner. Now on top of that, you are a slave. You are owned. You are somebody's possession. And now you take it upon yourselves that I'm going to claim my independence. You may have purchased the body, but you did not purchase the soul that lies within it. So when he takes his shahada and he becomes Muslim, and they're now dragging him through the streets of Mecca, and they're leaving him on the hot sands in the middle of the day, and they're putting boulders on his chest, and they're hurting him, they are abusing him, and the only thing he keeps saying is ahad, ahad, ahad. One, Allah. Khabbab radiallahu ta'ala, they put him on hot coals until the fat from his back smothered the fire itself and put the coals out. He carried the scars, and I don't know if you've ever seen a burn victim's scars. It's intense, to say the least. He carried those, in my mind, like there was no hydrocodone, and like you have to understand, there's no pain medications. Like these people are going through this, and they don't like show up at the emergency room like, excuse me, I had a rough day. And Umar radiallahu anh, during his khilafat, he used to have Khabbab come in front of everybody. And why did he do it? He told me, he said, I want to see it so I can remember. So I can remember what we went through. What all of this, the price that we had to pay to get to this point. The effort, the sacrifice, what we went through together and individually. The choice was, again, a miracle. Why is that important? Because my beautiful brothers, sisters in Islam, here we are. Here we are. We're not going to be able to cover all this. This is actually, we could do a whole series. This, just one by one by one. This is for your benefit, inshallah, hopefully, and then hopefully, inshallah, we'll expand from here. when, quote unquote, and this is completely bogus terminology, but it's the norm, so we'll use it. When born Muslims will say to, whether it's myself or to a convert, mashallah, and they mean well. They'll say, mashallah, you're so much better than me. You accepted Islam. You chose to be Muslim. We were born Muslim. You're so much better than us. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I have heard that different places over the years. Almost like the wording is exact. And you talk to converts, I almost guarantee you somebody has said that to them. If not at the day that they took their shahada. Okay? The statement, although they mean well, it is completely bogus. And it is also an indication. It is a symptom of a much more, it's a deeper issue. There's a lack of understanding here that we've got to clear up immediately. And this is not about we're all born Muslim. Yes, we are all born Muslim upon the fitratul Islam, okay? Given, yes. But then puberty. Please understand something. Everybody must make a choice. There is a question that comes up in fiqh. Is it going to be sufficient on the day of judgment for a Muslim to only be Muslim because he was from a Muslim or she was from a Muslim family? Or that it was cultural? And then this discussion takes place academically. What was the conclusion, basically? Conclusion is this. Yes, if the person can honestly and sincerely say that if their whole, whether it's cultural family, if they were to leave Islam, I would stay. If your whole family left Islam, you would not. Then yes, it would apply. And that's just a roundabout way of saying, it's got to be your choice. You and I, everyone, must decide. And like we were talking about earlier today, it's a moment-to-moment decision. We decide to believe or not. We decide to accept or not. We decide to obey or not. Moment to moment to moment. True or not? So with these Sahabah, and the way that we need to look at it is the same way, actually. That we are in an environment which is actually 180 degrees out of sync with Islam. And it is eroding at such a rapid rate that Muslim and non-Muslim alike are greatly concerned. Greatly concerned. I talk to non-Muslim parents. I talk to non-Muslims in the mental health field. I talk to non-Muslims that are in education. They are just as equally concerned. I'm telling you. You think the Muslim community is in a panic? They are as well. For the same reasons. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about where are we going with this. They're worried about stability and security. But for us, that's just the dunya. We're worried about the akhirah. I do not want my children. Can you imagine this? If we don't take this seriously, this choice seriously, and if we do not follow the established template and pattern of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam on how to establish a community, imagine this, and may Allah protect all of us from this. Imagine you show up on the day of judgment, and because of your lack of effort, your lack of sacrifice, because of the lack of focus, because of the selfishness, because of the distractions, because of the obliviousness. Now you see that your children or your grandchildren, your family getting dragged to the hellfire because you didn't do your job while you were here. You wanted to do it your way. Allah said, I want you to do it my way, and that is the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you got enamored with other ways, other lifestyles, other peoples, other cultures. And you made a choice. You made a choice to live your life the way that you lived it, however that may be. These are the repercussions. These are the ramifications. When we're gone, we don't get to you're not there for your kids anymore, nor your grandchildren. And if you're like me, I don't even just see my kids. They're all my kids. Because you're right. You're born Muslim. That means I don't care if it's Luke and David and Timmy and whatever, like Becky and Sue, I don't care. I love them too. They're Muslim too. I want them to be successful too. They are part of the Ummah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam too. I must be concerned about their future too. I have to make sure that they have a proper opportunity to see the truth of Islam. Because if we do not do like these Sahabah, because what do they convert from and to? Because we call that converting. We don't just say that they converted because they took their shahada. We say they converted because their lives changed. Their actions are what we noticed. Their actions are what we talk about. The actions are what we put up on a pedestal as an example of what to do and what not to do. Their actions. So now you and I must make a choice. Or otherwise, here's a real question. Through this process of assimilation, are we actually watching the slow conversion of Muslims into becoming like Christians? Or worse? Because now, it's not even about becoming like Christians. Because another thing that all those those different categories and non-Muslims, Muslims alike, they're not even now the thing is atheism. People are taking themselves as their God. Allah talks about this in the Quran as well. Nothing new, nothing surprising. It's an old story. They've taken themselves and their desires as their ilah, as their God. You know what this is called? Satanism. Atheism is the new polite word for it. You can check it. Look up the definition of what do they believe? Satanists will tell you. It's basically worship yourself. Do as thou wilt and let that be the whole of the law. Do whatever you want. That is the only thing you need to worry about. Nobody can tell you what's right for you. Nobody can tell you how to be or how you should be and what's right and what's wrong and how you should live your life, and right? Only you. Nobody knows what you're going through, what you feel, right? Nobody knows you like you. Nobody's going to love you like you love you. Nobody knows what's best for you the way you know what's best for you. Sound familiar? Because this is what's getting banged into the heads of our children as they receive their participation awards. This is what is generating a brittle, hypersensitive society that is on the cusp of collapse, truth be told. Now, here's the thing. If that does happen, Allah, He knows. For us, it doesn't really change much, because even if we see the sun rising from the west and we're planting a tree, finish planting the tree. So even if everything is like falling down around us, we still do our work and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then that's the question for you and I. Like these Sahaba, are we doing our work? And I'm not talking about the boss at the job. I'm not talking about the one that you get the dollar paycheck. So when we look at the Sahaba, this is what we have to, these are the people we need to introduce our children to. Our children need to know who these people are, because I'll give you something to do when you go home. Over the weekend, catch Muslim youth. Catch them. Doesn't matter what age. You'll get like results. MashaAllah, it's all beneficial. Elementary, middle school, high school. Ask them. Name me 10 prophets. Name me 10 male Sahaba. Name me 10 female Sahaba. Sahabiyat. See how many can actually do it. See how many can actually do it. Because I teach the kids and everything also, and I run into, they can't even name 10 prophets. And here's the catch. These are kids that have gone through, in different states and various programs, various methodologies, a quote-unquote Sunday school system. And most of you who know like how that whole thing works, it stops. Most of them don't even want to go like around 13, 14, 15. It's hard to get them to go. They got their own personalities and their attitudes and everything. So when they're little, that's really the only opportunity that you have, right? So now when I interact with them, when they're in middle school and mostly in high school and older, right? Now what are we actually checking? Retention. Because whenever I teach, the same way that I was taught, 3 things you got to be focused on: comprehension, retention, application. You must understand the material. You must be able to retain the material. You must be able to apply the material. So now here's the thing. Maybe they comprehended at the time. Who knows? Because they didn't keep it. There was no retention. If there's no retention, then that means that everything that was done, where was the benefit? What was the benefit? Because I send my kids to get an education in Islam because I want them to be successful in the eyes of Allah. Because I want them to be able to deal with the challenges of this dunya. Because I want them to know who they are. Because I want them to know that no matter what, your solution is always going to be in this deen. It is always in the hands of Allah. If you keep your footsteps lockstep with the footsteps of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will be okay no matter what happens around you. That's why I want my kids to learn deen. So now let's look at our kids. Let's look at the product, because we're talking about 4th generation now. Ya ikhwan, wa akhawat. 4th generation now. So let's look at the previous generations. Comprehension, retention, application. Is it there? Yes or no? And there is the grade for the community. Forget about what everybody says and the pats on the back and all that kind of stuff and like what we would like to believe. And I tried my best and like, well, I don't know. That's debatable. But this thing right here, the product that comes off the line. When you talk about quality control, right? Quality control is what? I want to see the product that comes off the line, and I am going to do what? I am going to gauge, analyze, I'm going to judge the product coming off the line. Because you could tell me, oh, our processes are amazing and our methodology, we do this and we do that, but the product that comes off the line is, Do you even care about all the other stuff? No. At the end of the day, what's your concern? The product that comes off the end of the line. So we've got like 2 working on the 3rd generation now. So let's look at the product. Let's look at what our communities are producing. And that will tell us how well we're doing. It would be easier if our context was like in a form of stasis. We were talking today with the brothers of Subhanallah. You remember when our biggest challenge was TVs? Remember that? Remember when the biggest thing was like, keep the shaitan out of your home, right? Don't let the TVs in your houses. It's like, oh, mashallah, it's a big thing. People were hanging TVs from trees by the power cords and all kinds of like, mashallah. TV, the enemy, the tool of shaitan, right? It's like, mashallah. I remember those years. And then the internet happened. And we all just wanted to go hug our TVs, right? Like, oh, TV, I'm sorry. Can you just send the other guy away? We'll take you back here, right? Subhanallah. I'd rather deal with the TV than the internet and social media and this thing. And like, so now it's like we are living in a society that is so overwhelmed spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically that look at the pharmaceutical industry. Look at what's happening with mental health. Okay? We have to be the anchor. Like these Sahabah, they are the anchor for all of us, for all time. But for the generations, our kids, and the kids, our children, right? Whether it's your kids, my kids, our kids. Our kids. We need to be an anchor for them. We need to be the walking, talking, living, breathing, practical examples of how to put this deen into practice. We need to not be telling our kids what Islam is, but showing them what it is. When converts come into Islam, what do they experience? Do you know? Do you know? Or is it just sufficient to say Islam is the fastest growing religion in the country, and mashallah, people are always taking their shahadas, and you should see like the Latino community is like Hispanic community is like all of them are taking their shahadas now, and like okay, fine, yeah, mashallah, you feel real good about yourself. Do you know what happens to them after they enter into Islam and they meet the Muslim community? Because that is also a grade. Meaning, if we look at two things, it will tell us a lot about ourselves. We look at the children that were produced from our communities, and we look at the converts that are entering in our communities, and all we need to do is sit down with those two categories of people and look and talk with them, and they will let us know where we stand. The criterion that we're being judged by is Islam. So don't have to worry about it. It's not subjective, it's objective. Proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding. If we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and we're doing it right, Allah Ta'ala puts the results there because He promised us He would. If we're doing what we're doing and we're not getting the results and we're having more problems and the challenges are increasing, and then it's still like the confusion is increasing, the panic is increasing, that is telling us you're doing something wrong. Individually, as families, as communities, our understanding is lacking something. Something's wrong. And again, I only bring that up because why? Because as Muslims, we have to be solution-oriented. We don't run from problems. We're Muslims. We're bold. We're courageous. Problem comes, we don't need to shy away from it. We don't need to turn a blind eye to it. We don't need to turn our back to it. We don't need to whimper and whine and maybe it'll get better tomorrow. No, we don't do that. We're Muslims. We're the ones when everybody else is running away from the problem, we run towards the problem. Why? Because I have the solution. I don't need to run. I'm Muslim. I'm Muslim. You're Muslim. You see, when you hear that, when you're young and you hear that, and you see that there's you need to be confident, know exactly who you are. You will be able to stand in no matter what crowd, and you can be the only Muslim. And here's the thing, you will dominate that crowd. You will dominate that crowd. I can't even tell you how many different, you look at the Sahabah, look at them. 2, 3, Indonesia. That's it. Largest Muslim populated country in the world today. Look at the world today, Muslims everywhere. It was, subhanAllah, when the Muslim world expanded, people think like, expanded and like everybody took their shahadas, like there was a wave of shahadas, like, no, that's not what happened. It took roughly about 100 years for those places that were conquered, like during the expansion of Islam. It took roughly about 100 years for those peoples to enter into Islam. Generations. What did it? Pamphlets? Website? YouTube? No? A lot of times they didn't even speak the language. They did it with their akhlaq. They did it with their character. They did it with how they carried themselves. They did it because they amongst all those non-Muslims, they went in the middle of them and stood there solid as an anchor and said, I am a Muslim. I come bearing the truth. Let me introduce you to Allah through my actions. I'll supplement it with words for further clarification. But don't focus on the words so much as focus on my actions. I want to show you Islam, not just tell you about it. Right? Now send our kids into a university. Now send them into the workplace. Right? Solution oriented. This is not about fixing blame. This is about fixing problems. This is about our children. This is about the future. This is about our responsibility to preserve the deen for the sake of the generation that comes after us. This is about us showing up on the day of judgment and not wanting to see our own family members going into the hellfire because we failed in our responsibility. This is about us standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah and being able to say that, Ya Allah, I tried to represent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the best of my ability. I am imperfect. Subhanaka, you are perfect. I am imperfect. Through your perfection, I need the forgiveness of all my imperfections. We got to be able to show up and on that day in front of Allah, being able to say, I tried. Because on that day, there's no lies. Yawmul Haqq. This is about truth. This is about reality. This is when all the fantasies and all the subjective thinking and all the little perceptions and like, well, this is my viewpoint and this is how I see it. And like when all of that becomes dust in the wind of no value whatsoever, of no bearing and of no weight whatsoever. We get one life, we get one opportunity, one shot. You know the basketball games, they say like shoot from half court, win $10,000, right? You one shot. One shot for Jannah, for Allah. Choose. Choose to be Muslim. You know how important that choice is? Every salat, that's what we're doing. We sit down, we sit down and we do what? Tashahhud. What are we doing? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I'm bearing witness. I'm testifying to the truth. I am making a choice. Now stand firm in the midst, in this society, in this environment, in this atmosphere of kufr and shirk, where all of these influences have made their ways into our lives. And it's not just a TV anymore. They get it when they go to school. They get it from the internet. They get it from social media. They get it from YouTube. They get it from their peers. And subhanAllah, and the situation becomes like a monster that feeds on itself. We have to give them an alternative. We need the alternative. Because as I'm talking to adults, subhanAllah, frayed edges to say the least. Parents, panic is an understatement, especially ones with really young kids. Panic is an understatement. Help them choose. But we need to choose first. Not just with this. We need to choose with our hearts. And how do we know that when we have chosen correctly? Because the Islam will come alive in our lifestyles. The difference between us and non-Muslims will become larger and larger and larger and larger till Muslims are in this society amongst these people, not assimilated, but integrated. We work with you, we live with you, we shop, we do everything. You do it as a non-Muslim, we do it as a Muslim. That's the difference. And you can tell the difference between us and you. And it's not just about the difference between us and you. The difference is between the truth and other than the truth. We don't want them to see differences because we're that different. We want them to see the difference between truth and other than the truth. We have to be those walking, talking, living, breathing examples of the success of Islam, the truth of Islam, and what it can do in the life of a human being. An anchor. So that when the people panic, they have an alternative. Then when they're looking for answers, you're standing there with them. You're part of the solution. So are we part of the solution or part of the problem? It's also a choice. Like the Sahabah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to make the right choice. Not just once, but all the way until it's time to die. Right? يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Allah says, have taqwa. Have taqwa. After saying Allah tells us have taqwa, now don't die except that you're Muslim. In a state of submission. Oh boy. Talk for another day. Muslim doesn't just mean like nominal. I took my shahada, I'm Muslim. No. But have you submitted? You're Muslim. Yes. Means you have this kalima, you've accepted the truth, you testified to the truth, but have you submitted yet? You're a legal Muslim. Are you a practical Muslim? Both are accepted on the day of judgment. Don't think like mashallah, a mustard seed's weight, right? Of iman. So it's not about that, but have you submitted yet? And to what degree? 20%? 30? 35? 55? 95? Anything less than 100? How can we be content? How can we rest knowing that our whole purpose in life is submission? And I'm 95% good. Is there a guarantee that the 5% remaining is not going to land me in the hellfire? Is there a guarantee that 5% remaining cannot end up being the sabab or the means of, may Allah protect us and save us, of the person losing their iman at the time of death? It happens. Because while everybody's doing the same thing, going to work and going to home, and then they vacation, they do this and a year and same thing over and over and over. And I watch it. I watch the cyclic nature of people's lives. But then I'm there when all the bad stuff happens. So when people are dying in their hospitals and they're sick and I'm going to visit them, and now you see what their condition is at the end. At the end. Ajib stuff happens. Very amazing things. Allah does what Allah does. Do not think for a heartbeat because you're a Muslim now that you are guaranteed to die as a Muslim. It happens more than you think. There are young people that are leaving Islam now, and then there are the ones that are coming back. Then there's the ones that are coming back. So here's the thing, why are they coming back? They went out? Oh, that's nasty. I'm coming back home. Some of them, they got to go out and find out how like nasty and disgusting all that whole lifestyle is so that they can come back and realize that I didn't realize how amazing Islam is and how blessed I was to grow up in a Muslim family. And they come back. Choice. Choose. Don't ever look at another convert again and think like, well, he chose Islam. Well, if you're saying that, then that means you haven't yet. And you need to. Immediately. Every moment for the rest of your life. So when you and I, when we have that choice of committing a sin, that's the choice we're making. That's the choice we're making. Every last one of you has something special to offer, without exception. Do not deprive the ummah of what you have to give. Do not deprive us of everything that you have to give. If you're just jammed up with like you're living the life of a non-Muslim, right? You've deprived us of that special thing that Allah gave you. And that we could take benefit. I could take benefit from it. But because you're not around or you're not here, we don't get it. We need all of you in our masajid. We need you in the masjid. We need you in the educational programs. We need you actively involved even in the lives of the children. You are all aunties and uncles to all the kids. They need to see that they are loved in the Muslim community, not just by their parents, but by the entire Muslim community. You have a role to play. It's an extremely important role. And if you don't fulfill it, then you're depriving us. So I'm humbly requesting, on behalf of the ummah, I dare be so bold. I don't think the ummah would take fault with me for this. Do not deprive the ummah of all the special things that Allah has placed in you that you have to offer. Give the benefit to the ummah. Right? And can you imagine if we all do it? Like who? Look what Allah did with the Sahabah. You know, Abu Bakr had something like, we know like he's special, and Umar is special in a different way, and Usman is special in a different way, and Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas is special in a different way, Bilal is special in a different way. They're all special in a different way. You are too. They're people. You're people. Where's the disconnect happening? Where's the disconnect? This is people. They practice Islam. Allah brought the beautiful things out. The world benefited. People practicing Islam, Allah brings the beautiful things out, the world benefits. Keep this in mind when you're interacting, when you're talking with each other, when you're talking to the kids, right? May Allah Ta'ala accept all of us. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give us the tawfiq to consistently, constantly make the right choice, have the courage to make the right choice, to choose like the Sahabah chose, no matter what the set of circumstances, no matter the context, the situation. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our feet firm. Ya muthabbit al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. Ya musarrif al-qulub, sarrif qulubana ala ta'atik. Ya mu'allif al-qulub. Mu'allif al-qulub means the one who unites the hearts. Ya mu'allif al-qulub, allif bayna qulubina ala sirat al-mustaqim. Join our hearts upon the sirat al-mustaqim. People talk about common ground. The common ground of a Muslim is the Sirat al-Mustaqim. It's only when we come off of it that we have differences. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة اللهم لا عيش إلا عيش الآخرة اللهم إنا نسألك حسن الخاتمة اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا غفور رحيم صلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ بِرَحْمَتِكَ نَسْتَغِيثُ. There are some refreshments downstairs. I am also here and available. Anybody who needs to leave, if you don't know me, I never worry about people leaving during programs. I figure you got to go to the bathroom, appointment, family, nothing like that. But if you need to go, like by all means. But for anybody who has questions, I will stay posted up right